Hello and welcome to the next episode of my Learn With Me Opsix series. So far we've had a look at the panel, we've had a little chat about the synth in general, we've examined the features of the operators and the different modes that they can take on, as well as the different sounds that they can make. We've gone through some classic FM sounds using the algorithms. We've also examined user algorithms, and then we've moved into non-FM synthesis methods. That's covered things like additive synthesis and amplitude modulation synthesis. What I'm going to do today is what I've called a non-FM synthesis method, but is actually an FM synthesis method. What is it? It is going to be filter FM. So let's start by explaining what filter FM is. Filter FM is a method where each of the operators in filter FM mode generates its own oscillator in the normal way, but unlike regular frequency modulation, where the frequency of that oscillator is affected by an incoming modulator, in this case, the filter cutoff is modulated by the incoming modulator signal. So this can have quite a different character of sound, and we're going to explore that today. What I'm thinking of doing is making something of a pad sound. Rather than trying to get all 6 operators involved, I'm going to keep it quite simple. So let's start with 2, and maybe I'll add a 3rd operator afterwards. So let's look at the mode, filter FM. Now, since there's a filter involved here, I would rather there be more harmonics, so I'm going to try and use a triangle wave for this. Let's try adding some resonance. So similar sound, something like FM, something like a filter sweep. So I guess that's kind of what you'd expect. I think I'm going to try and make a pad sound here. And what I'm interested in doing is experimenting with Okay, so I like the sound of modulation from both above and below the pitch that I'm playing. So what I'm going to experiment here with, I think, is I'm going to set the root operator to be on pitch, and then I'm going to use another operator that's tuned below that. And let's say I'll use a 3rd. So I'm going to try and use operator 3 to modulate operator 2. So let's go to user algorithm edit, 2nd operator, 3 to 2 modulation. So let's set this to, so this is 2, this can be 1. And let's go have a look at the mode settings here. So far, I liked the sound of this MS-20 filter mode the best. Okay, and let's go now to the 2nd operator. Let's also put that into filter FM mode, and let's have that produce a triangle wave. And let's go for the same filter type. So okay, let's try and bring in the next one. Okay, so let's have a look at the mode of that. Okay, sounds interesting. I'm considering the possibility of using operator 3 to some degree to also modulate operator 1. So let's see what it sounds like. Let's go back to user algorithm edit. Okay, so I think we've got some sounds going that are pretty interesting. Now, I think it's time to shape these. I was talking about a pad sound, so let's think about what's going to make a pad sound here. Firstly, let's look at the carrier. So let's shape the envelope on the carrier. So that's call it 2-second attack. Let's take a 5-second decay. And then I'll tune this sustain by ear. So at the moment the release changes into a ringing sound because these ones have shorter release. So what that's told me is that I want a release that's at least that long. So let's give this also a 2-second release, and let's give this also a 2-second release. Actually, maybe this one doesn't need it. Yeah, I guess it does. Okay, so now we don't have any strange artifacts there. So now let's add some attack to this. So this one I gave it a 2-second attack. So let's try 4-second attack here. Let's give it a 6-second decay. And now I'm going to tune the sustain by ear. Okay, interesting. And now let's get to operator 3. I gave that 4 seconds, so let's give this 6 seconds. Okay, so now I think we have some movement. We have a pad-like sound. I think the first thing I want to do, given that I'm normally playing these, is add some velocity sensitivity. So let's go to the Okay, so let's experiment with that. Low velocity. High velocity. Okay, that's interesting. Now I'm going to listen to how it sounds across the registers. In particular, let's start with a high register. Very, very bright. So I think up here, I'm definitely going to need some filtering. So let's try and bring a filter in. Okay, I think that's tamed it a little. I think that sounds okay in the bass, but maybe I'd like a bit more of this modulation to come in. So let's look at the levels here. And now I'm going to close the filter down a little bit in general. Okay, and now maybe I'm going to add a bit of envelope to that filter. So let's do it quite long, maybe 6 seconds and 8 seconds. Give it a 3-second release. So a thing that I would like here, I think also, is when I use a higher velocity, I would like the attack to be a bit shorter. I've done this before and I think it works quite well. So let's say velocity to, maybe I'll use the program level attack to avoid setting them individually. So I think this filter's maybe a little bit closed. Okay, I think that's working. Now I would probably like some more motion to be going on. So I want to move the filter and probably I want to move the operators a little bit. See if there's anything else that I can use in here. So maybe I can increase the resonance of the first two operators as velocity increases. So let's go for that. So again, keyboard, velocity, operator 1, filter resonance, keyboard velocity, so operator 2, filter resonance. So note now that this operator, I set it to the third harmonic. So that is an octave and a fifth above. So I think what I would like to do, I think this is the good pitch. So I'm going to tune it down by a fifth. So let's go. It's also a little quiet, so let's go and do that movement that I wanted to add. So let's get a couple of LFOs ready. Let's get all of them ready, I suppose. Let's see. 0.5, 6, 0.7, and then let's go to operator 1 and let's add some level LFO. So I'll make that velocity sensitive, and let's go to the filter and let's add some LFO and also velocity sensitive. So now I think it's time to add some effects. Let's try and add something different to what we've been doing so far. Maybe some distortion. Sounds a little bit quiet to me, so I'm going to turn it up here. Back to the effects. So the distortion seems reasonable. Let's see what other effects we've got here. Maybe flanger. And finally, I think a reverb is going to work nicely here. Let's try a spring reverb. Let's set the reverb spring very long. So, what do we got? Okay, so filter FM is often not really used as a synthesis method in the same way as you don't hear of many amplitude modulation synthesizers, but I wanted to use it to try and see what we could do. Now imagine that instead of just feeding in some simple waveform or only using filter FM, we had this sound interacting in different ways by doing amplitude modulation with something else, by doing frequency modulation with something else. So I think that's where we can get some depth here. Not that this sound is bad. I think this sound is reasonably interesting. It's a pad that maybe it's a little bit tired, a little bit obvious, but I think it works reasonably well. And it's only using 3 operators, which means if I wanted to layer it with something, either with a similar synthesis method or a simple FM sound or an amplitude mod sound or a comb filtered sound, I could. So now I'm in territory of being able to, even though it's one single patch, effectively layer different disjoint sounds together. And I think that is the real strength and the fun that can come from using a synthesizer like this. So I think that's everything that I wanted to talk about today. I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and I hope you've been enjoying this series so far. I probably have one more of these non-FM episodes to do before I start trying to bring everything together and do some more complex sound design. In any case, I hope you have had fun watching this episode. I hope that you will join me for some more episodes, but most importantly, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching and goodbye.